With the recent Eminence in Shadow Season 2 Episode 12, which is titled Highest, this is a nice reference to the Season 1 opening, but it also showcases Shadow's overpowered nature at its highest level yet. The episode will also be revealing some of the most important world building details in the series so far, and Sid returning to his previous world. As usual, the anime did make some creative changes to certain aspects from the light novel, so I will be discussing about those along with breaking down the episode. It goes without saying there will be spoilers for people that haven't watched the episode yet, so here's a spoiler warning just in case. And if you enjoyed this cut content / breakdown video, feel free to leave a like and don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well, it really helps a lot. To start, episode 12 continues directly from where the previous episode stopped, and after Ragnarok reconnected its severed arm, it summoned numerous obsidian monsters to the battlefield, and it's here that Shadow performed his usual introduction with the Shadow Garden members revealing themselves as well. Then the battle truly begins with Shadow Garden engaging the obsidian monsters while Shadow leads Ragnarok away from the cathedral and the city center, because in the light novel he actually did this to avoid causing too much collateral damage to the surroundings. Now after he left, Beta and Epsilon will arrive to confront Mordred, but in the light novel Rose has stayed behind to help them fight Mordred. However, in the actual episode she left for the palace after she was ordered by Shadow to fulfill her own role of seizing the throne. And because Rose wasn't present, the episode actually removed a minor sequence from the light novel where she made observations about Beta's fighting style. Basically, Rose noticed that Beta doesn't seem to enjoy fighting and her fighting style was neither inventive or interesting as compared to the others in Shadow Garden. But that doesn't mean Beta is a terrible fighter. On the contrary, she simply took what was taught to her by Shadow and replicated the style to the highest degree of accuracy. She likely considered this to be the purest way of admiration towards her master. In any case, regarding Beta and Epsilon's fight with Mordred, their interaction pretty much followed the light novel with just some minor differences in the dialogue, although their provocations towards Mordred were shown to be much more effective in the episode. That said, Epsilon will showcase some of her insane magic proficiency by throwing magic blades to counteract and even overpower Mordred's own invisible blade attacks, and the light novel actually gave a more detailed explanation on why it was such an impressive magical feat by Epsilon. That's because when magic is sent outside the body, especially at a long distance, it becomes unstable and harder to control, causing it to easily disperse to the surroundings. So in order to counteract this, the user has to possess a high amount of mana to offset the magic loss when it travels, while also having a precise level of technical control to make constant adjustments to the released magic. I guess this is why Epsilon is considered to be the most talented magic user in Shadow Garden. But moving on, the following sequence involving Rose and Margaret was slightly different from how it was portrayed in the light novel. To explain, in the light novel, Rose had saved Margaret from one of the obsidian monsters, and they were able to make amends to their relationship with Margaret apologizing to Rose for misunderstanding her, whereas in the episode, Margaret tried to apologize but was interrupted by Rose, although having her acknowledging Rose as the queen definitely felt more symbolic and still gets the meaning across. Anyways, going to Shadow's battle with Ragnarok, the episode actually removed much of the fight sequences, but it was still funny how I thought it was just a fantasy demon bat, not realizing that it was something more akin to a demon king. So regarding some of the differences in the battle, he was taking a more cautious approach in the light novel, constantly dodging to where the monster are while studying Ragnarok's attack patterns, whereas in the episode he simply took the direct approach and attacked the monster head on, even treating the entire battle like another video game boss fight. Furthermore, Shadow even manages to outright disintegrate Ragnarok with only his magic strings in the episode, but in the light novel he mentions that even though his magic strings can damage the monster, he still couldn't do serious damage to it. That's why he was contemplating on other cooler methods to take down Ragnarok. Now I personally did prefer his more direct and muscle-added approach in the episode, because the anime version of Shadow has always been established to be more overpowered as compared to his light novel counterpart, so it wasn't that surprising the fight was much shorter. But returning to Rose, she's briefly seen talking to 664 and 665, likely about leaving the remaining obsidian monsters to Shadow Garden, while she coordinated the Oriana forces on providing relief to the people. Then, as she was thinking on how to deal with Mordred, the dude was sent flying to where she stands, utterly defeated by both Beta and Epsilon. They decided to extract some information from Mordred, and he only shared what he knew because he was still confident that Ragnarok would soon destroy not just Shadow Garden but the Oriana Kingdom. So even if they learned about the truth, they will still die nonetheless. And much of what they discussed pretty much followed the light novel and revealed some very interesting facts about their world. To summarize what they discussed, there are apparently multiple different worlds or dimensions called realms that exist in the series, and like planets revolving around the sun, realms all revolve around an unknown presence at the center, which Mordred claims it might be God itself, but that's not important because the biggest takeaway was the fact that realms will occasionally collide with one another, and whenever that happens, those realms become connected and things can essentially travel from one realm to another father or vice versa. The best example is their own world because according to the cult, it used to be magicless, but it was likely their world collided with another realm that possessed magic a long time ago, which allowed mana to flow in as a result. The inhabitants eventually learned to adapt and harness magic. However, magic aren't the only things foreign to this world because Mordred revealed that humans were also in fact from another realm. But aside from that, their conversation also revealed some information about the Demon Diablos, or namely Aurora, because it seems that before she became the Demon Diablos, it was implied that she was the one that summoned the original organism from the first realm, which became the basis for creating the real Demon Diablos. This means that Aurora might have the ability to connect or contact other realms and hints at how tragic her life must have been, being transformed into a monster by the cult. Nevertheless, Beta and Epsilon then asked about the Black Rose, and it was indeed a gate that connects to other realms. But that wasn't all, it was also the reason how the Oriana Kingdom came under the control of the cult, because when the Black Rose was accidentally used to annihilate the Valgatan soldiers long ago, they couldn't close the gate so monsters kept coming through. Luckily, the cult managed to close the gate, but in exchange for saving the Oriana Kingdom from destruction, they demanded compensation from the royal family, such as offering their children for experimentations. That's because the blood of the human hero who defeated the Demon Diablos runs thick in the Oriana royal family, especially Rose, who has the highest amount of magic so far even for a bloodline. It was for this reason that Rose was actually sent away to the Midgard Kingdom by her father to protect and hide her from the cult. Furthermore, this wasn't mentioned in the episode, but the cult even took most of the country's tax revenues, and they were even responsible for why the country has a culture of appreciating arts and hating swordsmanship to prevent them from gaining the strength to rebel. However, Rose's father wanted to break the cycle, so he formed an alliance with the Midgard Kingdom and tried to succeed from the cult. Of course, this ultimately led to the cult having Perth Asset infiltrate the royal family and slowly taking control of the kingdom while turning the king into a proper puppet in the process. Having explained that, Mordred was about to start gloating when he witnessed Ragnarok getting completely destroyed by Shadow's magic strings, and this causes Mordred to start having a mental breakdown, and it was hilarious how he was in complete denial. Then having both Epsilon and Beta pitying him definitely added to the humor. Although the episode did remove the part where Beta gave him more emotional damage by stating that him along with the cult have simply been moving according to Shadow's intentions. Then he receives even more emotional damage when Victoria arrives to report that all the monsters have been eliminated, meaning that even his plan on killing all the residents have failed. Nonetheless, the following sequence where Mordred fuses with the severed arm of Ragnarok and his fight with Shadow would happen quite differently from the light novel. He only consumed a piece of flesh from Ragnarok, but in the episode, he straight up stuck his head inside the severed arm. Additionally, the fight was much longer in the episode as compared to the light novel as well. So regarding this confrontation, after Mordred acquired his new form, he tried to challenge Shadow, but it's an understatement to even call this a fight. You can tell Shadow wasn't even interested in facing someone weak like Mordred, and he was quite savage for the entire fight, calling Mordred a defect and saying that his intellect is even worse than Delta. Regardless, it was obvious the episode's budget went into his final battle because the fight choreography was super fluid and the animation just felt so dynamic. But I digress, Shadow was utterly destroying Mordred throughout the fight, and they somehow ended up in space. Shadow then performed his usual monologuing about nuclear energy, how he wished to obtain that power and etc. Somewhat similar to what he said when he was fighting Xenon Griffey in Season 1. And I have to commend the studio for this original sequence because everything from the music, sound effect, visuals and voice acting were done to perfection. Also, the visual of him putting a protective layer of magic to protect the planet before releasing quite possibly the most powerful I'm Atomic so far, and him saying a shortened version to emphasize how insignificant he viewed Mordred were such amazing details. And it's crazy that Shadow went from having a nation-sized threat level to now a planetary threat level, further proving that anime Shadow is arguably the strongest version of himself because even in the light novel, his power levels were not depicted to be this crazy. Having said that, showing people's reaction to Shadow's power was quite a good callback to Season 1, although the frame showing someone that resembles Zeta did confuse me because her outfit doesn't seem to match her style, and she was even holding onto something that almost looks like the cult symbol, but maybe I'm just overthinking it. What do you think of this frame? Does it look like Zeta or could it be someone else? Let me know your opinions in the comments down below. So moving on, the battle with Mordred ended and Shadow's attack manages to even disperse the Black Rose, but it was explicitly stated in the light novel that he shattered and destroyed it. And it was poetic that his light washed away the literal darkness of the Black Rose, but also the dark history of the Oriana Kingdom, now free from the cult's control. Furthermore, the episode doesn't include the part where Rose briefly recalled the image of Shadow overlapping with Sid. She almost believed that they were the same person, but she would quickly dismiss the thought. In any case, a black void will appear after the destruction of the Black Rose, and Shadow thought it looked cool so he decided to interact with it, causing him to be sucked into it. Also, Beta was supposed to follow Shadow into the Black Void in the light novel, but it was left unknown in the episode. However, in the spin-off anime Kagejutsu, Epsilon did clarify that Beta had followed Shadow and the credits further illustrated that point. Now then, Shadow would be transported back to his previous world, although it was now in complete ruins. But to avoid spoiling the next story arc, essentially Mordred's theory about realms colliding were true, and it was the main cause behind much of the destruction for this world. It was also why Akane Nishino seems to possess some form of magical powers. That said, the following sequence where Akane gets kidnapped by the same people again, and having Shadow arriving to save her were original to the anime. With that, the episode ends, and there is actually amazing news for fans of the series. They have already announced the adaptation for the next story arc, and it will be made into an anime movie titled The Eminence in Shadow Lost Echoes. Although we still don't know the exact release date, but I believe it might be coming out next year, so we have that to look forward to.
I'm atomic.
So yeah, that's everything for episode 12, and the Eminence in Shadow season 2 has been amazing to watch. It was especially fun to do this cut content and episode breakdown videos as well. And despite the creative liberties of the anime, I would say it was a good adaptation, and some of the original sequences really made certain storylines even better. Also, the newest edition of Shadow's I Am Atomic was just insanely beautiful, and I can't wait to see more from the series. But what about you? What are your thoughts on the episode, and did you enjoy season 2? Feel free to leave your answers in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this episode breakdown and cut content video, don't forget to leave a like or subscribe to the channel and hit that notification button as well for more content like this in the future. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay safe everyone.